Now that our torso is well set, it's probably time to add the pelvic area, legs, and feet. Now we may take this in one, maybe two videos, we'll see. Sometimes, depending on how fast our legs go in, it's nice to break up our workflow into separate segments, possibly doing the feet. But let's see how we goes. But before we start adding legs, because this is a moment where we're going to have two of the same thing, it's a good time to implement mirror mode and symmetry with a modifier to make sure that as we're expanding and building out our model, we can see it build on both sides. Some 3D modelers prefer to do that step at the very end, so they'll model out one complete side of the body and then mirror it at the very end. That's always been problematic to me because I just really don't like looking at half a body. While I'm modeling, I like to see both parts of it at the same time. So at any rate, let's go ahead and set up some symmetry. It looks like I need maybe one more cut on my torso. I don't really have that beautiful center line that follows down the sternum and chest. So I think I need one more loop cut. I'm in edit mode. Let's go to my loop cut. And as I mouse over my shape, it drops it perfectly in the center, so that is good. Let's go back into my move and select tools. I think wireframe will be best to make sure I select everything. I want to be in faces mode, and I'm going to select the entire left side of my body, and I'm going to hit delete faces. Then I'm going to go over to the right side into my modifiers tab, and I'm going to choose add modifier mirror. And when I do that, I should have a perfectly mirrored version of my torso, and I may have to move it or nudge it just a little bit, but for the most part, it looks like I've got a clean torso. Let's do a quick stress test by grabbing some points, selecting them, and then moving, say, left or right, and you'll notice that I don't have clipping set, and I'm not like merging my points. So let's turn on clipping, and then that looks pretty good. I'm going to get real close here, and it looks like I might have a little bit of overlap. I'm going to hit a render real quick and just to see, because I really don't want, before I get too far, I want to make sure that, yeah, looks good. Okay, it might just be the x-ray showing one of the points there. Looks like there's still a little bit of an overlap. I don't like that. If you can see that little x-ray grayness there, I may need to increase the clipping. As you saw there, it got rid of that faded area. So let me show you and talk through exactly what's happening. My mirror is imperfect. My center line probably wasn't perfectly on my origin. You can see how my origin is just slightly offset. So it's kind of a bit of sloppiness on my part to not have those perfectly on the origin. However, with this merge option selected and with the merge proximity turned up, you can see that it's going to merge those points together. So I think the symmetry should be working as I move it. Yep, it's moving the other side. And I'm not seeing that center gray line overlap, so this is good enough, we'll say. So there's a little bit of uncleanliness, but we got it fixed up with a few key features. Command S, just to be sure. And then I'm going to do just a little bit more cleanup. I can see these points here don't quite align. Perhaps it's a bit of my tracing image. If I move them up in this view, it moves them too high on the other view. So this is something where our tracing image may not be perfectly perfect, but this is all about artistic accuracy and not artistic perfection. So this is going to be kind of good enough for now. Maybe I take a few of these and I kind of align them up and down per se, but I think for the most part we're good with our torso. Let's move on to the legs. Now the legs are going to be created using some extrusions, so I'm going to want to be in face mode for this. So I'm going to click these 4 bottom faces, and then I'm going to use the extrusion tool and just drag these guys out and shape them in, creating kind of that pelvis area region. I'm going to move around in a few of my views so you can see that I may need to scale in a little bit and move and scale out a little bit and move. This should be very common to take this in 3 or 4 different passes. And once again, if your lines don't line up between your different viewports, we just want it to, quote, look good to the naked eye. It doesn't have to be pixel perfect to our reference images. Next, we're going to drag out our first leg. So I'm going to use these 4 polygons on the side. Simply select 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have my extrusion tool, extrude region, selected. And I'm just going to click and drag those down. Now, when you drag them down initially, they could look a little funky because they're here at an angle, and they may not look the best. That's okay. I'm gonna rotate a few views here so I can get a look at my character. I use a scaling trick to get this to flatten out. So you could rotate this and do all kinds of stuff. Super irritating. I just grabbed the scale tool, and I'm just gonna scale on the Z-axis and see how that drags everything down and just kind of like smashes it almost near flat. Love that. Then you can drag it down to the top of the knee, scale it in maybe on the x-axis a little bit, and then continue to move back and forth between your views so that you're scaling them appropriately. And you can see now I'm off by several units here, where in my right view it's showing this is the top of the knee, but in my left view it doesn't. So once again, we can kind of break from our reference. It's just that it's a reference. It's not meant to hold up our creativity too terribly. A little bit of rotational cleanliness. And then if you notice on the inside, I had this kind of like, we'll call it kind of oval-like kind of pelvic area, where if I control Alt Q, we get in there, you can see with X-ray turned off that like it's kind of got like a negative convex shape for the leg. I don't really like that. So let's get into our edges, if you would please. Let's go into edge selection mode. Let's see. Oops, we're not showing our edges here. Let's go back into this one. Let's go back into this one. And we are, I'm gonna save. We're missing a few. Our tracing images and stuff disappeared. Let's see if we can get those back. One moment. Might just have a bit of a hang up on mine. One moment. Here we go. Somehow I clicked show overlays, turn that off, so forgive me there. Okay, getting into this area with our edges, let's select that one and just move those inward. Maybe now point selection. We want this one inward. I'm just trying to kind of round out that area on the inside, so that way it's not creating this weird convex shape for our legs. And to be honest, I probably should have done that before I did my extrusion, because now I've got to do it twice. Whoops. Let's get this back. So you can really see here how bad that is. So point, point, point. Drag those out. Point, drag out. And now we have more rounded leg-like shapes than these weird like convex ones. So now we can select these all there and scale it in just a bit. And welcome to a process of 1,000 clicks. It's what it takes to get these to look good. Let's do one more selection here, because I'd kind of been using this view as my lead view. So I want to make sure that everything's looking, oops, lost a few points. Make sure everything's looking pretty good in this kind of key view. All right, these go there. Left ortho, right ortho, top ortho. There we go. Perspective again. All right, looking almost there. I've got one wild point that was not rounded, and I didn't really like how that one was, or that one. Pretty good. Pretty good. Go going back into shaded view, and you can see that like my legs aren't like perfectly round, but they're all right. Okay. Clean up this one rogue point. And pretty good. All right, time for more extrusions. Whoops, sorry about that. Back to face selection. 1, 2, 3, 4 faces. And extrude once again. Drag that down. Not bad. And move and extrude once again. Drag that down. And we're going to go just to the base of the foot there. And this is where the two views start to compete with one another, because now we're slightly off in our left view versus our right, but this right view is where we get more detail. So this is one where we might have to eyeball it a little bit more than we'd like, but that's okay for now. Rotate this to create a bit of an ankle. And we may just follow pretty closely what we're looking at there. Let's make the foot. I'm going to leave one of my polygons unselected so that way I can start the curve of the foot. And I'm going to move the last 3 down a little bit, say to where this middle section happens. I'm going to shift click the last one, and that way I've only got 2 selected, and I'm going to bring those down yet another step. That's going to create 2 face rows of polygons to extrude my foot. And then I'm going to do my little scale trick to flatten out these polygons. And that's going to create essentially my foot geometry for now. There might be there might be a few changes. We may want to back that off and do some extrusions, but we'll see. All right, we've got these 2 to start creating the foot. And you can see on the left, I'm kind of out of alignment here, but I'm going to follow on the right for a bit. Let's just do some extrusions to start making a foot. My little scale trick to flatten those out. Gets them pretty close. Extrude again. And and select, whoops, select, and extrude again. And rotate scale as you're able. It's up to you if you want to kind of form things as you go, or if you want to clean up after the extrusions are done. But looking pretty good. And then extrude one more time. Scale. And extrude one final time. And that ends up creating the toe. So, in this view, we've got our kind of the base of our feet there. There's a few extra cuts that we might make, a few extra loops that we don't have, but we can make those as we need to and as we want to. Got a few extra kind of verts here, so let's just go into the full view here so you can see a little bit better on your screen. I want these vertices. I kind of want that slant you can see on the tip of the toe, make it a little bit more rounded. Right now I've got a very boxy foot, so I'm going to merge these vertices. So I've selected point 1, shift point 2, right click, merge vertices at last. That's going to bring them to the second polygon or second vertice that I selected. Then select another row, first and second, right click, merge vertices at last. And that's just going to create more of that like rounded shape, if you can see, for my foot. Then we can clean up some of our foot points. They're a little bit bumpy at the bottom. Let's grab a box selection. Let's make sure we're in wireframe so we get them all. And then I use my scale hack to just kind of flatten those out as much as we can. And then with lasso selection, let's just get these cleaned up. They look a little nasty. I'm gonna get those into much more of a rounded foot-like shape. And if you notice, we don't have that the polygons continue all the way back. These cuts don't continue all the way back. I kind of skipped a few extrusions. I think it'll be okay. Shouldn't be too bad. But for the most part, we've got a pretty decent block-like foot. Now what we don't have is, you can see, yeah, we've got it pretty good. It's a little bit wider here, so if I grab these points and I increase these out, this is where things start to get a little bit, maybe a little bit odd. As I move these out, it's going to make my leg a little bit wider. My intention is to make the foot have a little bit more volume to it, but it's merging with the leg, which really doesn't look too terribly bad. It gives the calf a little bit of taper, but as we do that, it just gives the foot a little bit more view. Now, when we go into our top view, there's a bit of an angle on the foot here that we're not getting, so it may be a case where we want a few more cuts on the foot, but I think for right now we're going to be okay. We'll see how it goes when we subdivide this later. But that's it. We've got two legs, and we're on to arms next.